Topic number 3, okay? You got your business name, you got your domain name, you know your competition, you're ready to go, okay? You're moving at 100 miles an hour, all right? The next question that you're probably gonna ask yourself if you're a smart person is, should I be a sole proprietor or should I be an LLC? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages, okay? I'm gonna share with you what I did, okay? And what you can do, because this process, I'm not gonna say that this process is complicated, but you'll be asked questions about this process that could give you outcomes that you may or may not like, right? So sole proprietor has advantages and disadvantages. Starting an LLC or even a partnership has its advantages and disadvantages as well, okay? So I'm gonna tell you what I did, because I've done both, all right? I've done both for 2 different companies, actually 3 different companies, okay? So when I started a business, my real full-time job before COVID-19 was I've been a sales guy for my entire career, and I sold recruiting services. I'm not going to go into those details, but the fact of the matter is as a sales guy, one of the things that you have to do all day long in order to generate revenue is do what? Make cold calls. You gotta make cold calls all day long. All right, you got to call sometimes 50 people, sometimes 100 people, and now even in this day and age, where nobody answers emails and nobody picks up the phone, my job is even harder, okay? But I started a business where I provided cold calling services to companies who sold products and services that had long sales cycle. So the question I'd ask you is, when somebody buys a sign, is that a long sales cycle or a short sales cycle? If you said it's a short sales cycle, you're correct, okay? Because somebody makes the decision to buy a sign, they're gonna go to a website, they're gonna make a decision, they're gonna reach out to you, and then you're gonna sell them, you're gonna rent them a sign, and that could take all of an hour, could take all of 2 weeks, okay? In my line of work, prior to starting Sign Fairies, I sold my services to companies who had sometimes up to 12 to 24 month sales cycle, okay? Which means that there's a lot of detailed selling that's going on way before anything is ever sold or anything was ever purchased, okay? So my job was cold calling, and companies outsourced that work to me and my business, okay? And when I started that business, I decided that I would start an LLC, okay? So an LLC is a limited liability company, okay? And you can go to LegalZoom.com, or you can go to your state Department of Revenue website, and you can you? I think you can. I don't know, so I'm not going to say anything. But what I can tell you is I set up an LLC through LegalZoom, and I paid a fee for it, okay? And I like LegalZoom because they make the process easy, and they ask me questions that I don't know the answer to, that they make me research, okay? And so I went to LegalZoom.com and started an LLC. And in the process of starting an LLC, I was asked a lot of questions. Is the LLC going to be, is the ownership going to be broken up into percentages? So if I had a business partner, which I did, I owned 50%, he owned 50%, okay? And the way that we generated revenue is we sold business to somebody, we invoiced them, and then they paid us a fee, okay? We got paid, we took that money, we put it in the business, and then we paid ourselves, and then we paid all of our expenses, and at the end, we came out with a net revenue, okay? The benefit of a limited liability company is if I get into an argument about payment terms, or somebody at my client that is outsourcing their cold calling work to me decides to hire somebody on my team that we agreed that they wouldn't, I'm going to have to sue that company. All right. And that company can sue me. Anybody can sue me. All right. So as a limited liability company, I'm legally protected, okay, personally, from getting sued. So if I get sued, someone takes me to court and I have to pay them $100,000, they'll basically bankrupt my company, okay? And then I won't have a job, but they won't sue me personally. And that's one of the biggest things about a limited liability company or starting your own business that you have as an advantage, okay? Is that if you get into a legal dispute and somebody sues you, they will sue the company. They will not sue you, okay? They may try to sue you, but if you're acting as a owner of the business, selling a service through the business, okay, it's more than likely that that business that you're supporting will sue you, okay? I'm using some pretty big terms here, but it's important for you to understand these differences, okay? So when I started my LLC, you register it with the state, you register with the Department of Revenue, and so you pay taxes, depending on what you're selling. I sold services, so I didn't have to pay taxes till the end of the year. Or if I sold products, like in the sign business, you're gonna have to pay your taxes, depending on your state, every 3 months. And if you don't, you might have to pay a penalty, okay? So with my LLC, my county will allow me to create a fictitious name associated with my LLC, okay? So the name of my LLC, okay, which is not Sign Fairies, is called Sales Wire, W-Y-R-E, okay, saleswire.com, or Sales Wire. And we're registered in the state of Florida because my business partners opened up the business in Florida, okay? So what I was able to do is, now that I own the business, I was able, within my county, to create a fictitious name called Sign Fairies that I can have under my organization, SalesWire, okay? So now I can run another division of my business called Sign Fairies that's protected by my LLC as a whole nother business or as a separate division, okay? And that's another advantage, is that my state allows me to have up to 3 fictitious names associated with one LLC, all right? I'm getting into a lot of detail here because it's good for you to know this stuff, okay? Because when we talk about what a sole proprietor is, it's gonna be very different. So when you create your LLC, all right, you're gonna register it, or LegalZoom is gonna register it with the IRS. And they're gonna create an EIN number. And an EIN number is an employer identification number. And when you file your taxes as your business, you are not gonna file your taxes with your social security number, okay? You're gonna file your taxes with your EIN number. That tells the IRS that you're a business and that you're, you know, generating revenue, or you didn't generate any revenue, or whatever. But that EIN number will be given to you, and you'll be asked about what your EIN number is till the day that you die. So you'll remember it like your social security number, okay? So when you file your taxes, you're gonna be filing them as a business, and you're gonna be using your EIN number, okay? Also, with my Sign Fairy business, I can take the revenue that Sign Fairy generates and I can incorporate it into SalesWire, okay? Because now, because Sign Fairies is my primary source of income, and SalesWire, the outsourcing cold calling business that I had, is not generating any revenue, I can generate revenue through Sign Fairies and account it for SalesWire, okay? Just a different way of generating income, all right? It can either be a completely different company, or it could be another division of my outsourcing business doing something differently, Okay. So that is what an LLC will allow you to do. And that's what I've done. Okay. So if you decided you didn't want to spend the money to start an LLC, you don't have to. Okay. You can go to your county and you can register a business name, not under an EIN number, but under a social security number. All right. And that social security number, when you file your taxes and you have your accountant do all of the revenue that you generated through your business, okay, that'll be classified as income on your tax return. Okay. So as a sole proprietor, the revenue that you generate for your business will be aligned to you and your income that you generate and show the IRS. All right. So that's one of the big differences. Now, I should also probably point out here too, that this overview of an LLC and this overview as a sole proprietor are based on my experience. You owe it to yourself to not take my word as law. Okay. You need to do your due diligence. You need to do your research, and you need to make sure that you have yourself covered. Okay. Because I am not going to be liable for suggesting whether or not you should have one or the other. The purpose of this video is to give you an understanding of each. And there's multiple, but in this case, we're talking about an LLC versus a sole proprietor. Okay. And the differences between the two. Okay. So when I started my sign ferry business, I registered it under my LLC. Okay. But if I wanted to register it as a sole proprietor, instead of giving the county my EIN number, which I would have gotten from the federal government, I would give them my social security number. So the federal government and the income Department of Revenue knows that the revenue I generated from Sign Ferry's business is coming to me directly as a source of income, as opposed to a business. Okay. Now, when I said to you that as a limited liability, you could get sued and that your business would be liable, in a sole proprietor, you can be sued individually. Okay. And they could sue you for whatever they want. All right. So that's another either advantage or disadvantage to being a sole proprietor. A, you don't have to pay money to start an LLC. B, you don't have to pay money to be an LLC. You're a sole proprietor, but you could be sued. So you tell me, which one do you want? And you got to ask yourself that question. And this video, the purpose of this video is to help you understand that you have much more research that you need to do, and you have much more work that needs to be done in order for you to make this decision. This is where I would say to you that you want to spend some time really understanding what works best for you and the liabilities associated with it, because you just don't want to be exposed. You don't. And this is an important business decision that could have a ripple effect going forward. Now, because I'm a sole proprietor, because Sign Ferries is an LLC, anytime that I sell anything on my invoice, I have a hold harmless clause. Okay. And that hold harmless clause basically indemnifies me and the person that I'm giving the sign to any liability that happens when my sign is on that property. So let's just say, for example, Johnny goes outside and pulls off a letter from my stake. Okay. Johnny throws his sign down on the ground. Johnny invites his friend over, Joe. Okay. Joe's running around with Joey. They're throwing the football. Joe wipes out and lands on one of my yard stakes. It punctures him in his back, and now he's paralyzed. Okay. This hold harmless clause will protect me from getting sued. That's my understanding. I'm 95% sure in that. Now, if you were an LLC and that same scenario happened and you didn't have a hold harmless clause, they could sue your business. Okay. But you want to have a hold harmless clause or the details of what it is that you're going to be doing for that individual on your invoice. Okay, so there are many different things that you need to consider prior to making this decision. You can also decide that you may not want to have an LLC. You may want to be a different type of entity, and that's another option for you to do. So this is going to be the type of thing that if you have a buddy of yours who's an attorney or even your accountant, accountants know a lot about this stuff. They have to because they're filing your taxes. Okay, so you can call your accountant and ask them. That's a great resource that I have. And I happen to have a great accountant who's a really good dude. He actually picks up the phone and we can have candid conversations about the pros and the cons to each. An attorney, you're going to pay a lot of money for. It's probably going to give you the same amount of information. Okay, and that's all right. If you want to call an attorney, you can do that as well. Okay, so the other dynamic that you also should consider for your LLC or even for your sole proprietor in the state of North Carolina. Okay, now each state is different. The federal guidelines are the federal guidelines, but what might be required in North Carolina for me to do, okay, might not be the same requirement for somebody who lives in Colorado or Las Vegas or New York. Okay, so for me, in the state of North Carolina, we have counties. I live in a county called Iredell. And Iredell County, because I live here, levies a tax on everything that I sell. Okay, so in Iredell County, the tax that I have to pay pays for the county, and the tax that I have to pay also pays for the state. Is that correct? Let me say it differently. So I needed to find out that if I was going to be providing business in the entire state of North Carolina or in the 3 adjoining counties that I live around, each one of those counties requires you to have and collect a different tax percentage. So in Iredell County, I have to pay a 6.5% tax on everything that I sell. I have to collect that tax, and at the end of 3 months, I have to go to the Department of Revenue for the state of North Carolina, and I got to pay my taxes. I've collected that. I got to pay it. Okay, my customer's paying for that. I'm going to pay my taxes either quarterly or annually from a business perspective. But you got to pay those taxes because you got to collect them, and make sure that you understand the percentage of tax that you need to collect, because in certain counties that are connected to mine, they don't collect. I don't need to collect 6.5% for them. I might only need to collect 6%. Okay, so you have to have a good understanding, a very good understanding of how and what taxes you're going to need to collect for the people and the customers that you're going to be supporting, not only in your county, but also outside of your county. Okay, and I believe most franchises want you to stay within a county to make it easy. Some franchises may not. Okay, but that is also a dynamic that I did not know about until I started Sign Fairies. Okay, I had to make sure that when I sold a sign that I knew exactly how much taxes I needed to collect depending on where the person lived. So the state of North Carolina doesn't make it easy for me. Okay, and each county is its own entity, and they can charge whatever they want from a tax perspective. And you need to know that. All right, so you should talk to your accountant, or you can go to the Department of Revenue website for your state, and they should be able to tell you. Okay, that would be another dynamic that you just need to be prepared for from a business perspective. Okay, because you don't want to find out that you didn't collect enough taxes for a county that you supported and generated $50,000 worth of income from her, and you missed collecting 0.25% on all of the taxes that you collected. That's coming out of your pocket. Okay, they don't care. They're going to want their money, and if you can't give it to them, you're going to be hearing from them, and they're not going to be nice. Okay, so What else? So as another dynamic that you should also know about when it comes to this topic is it would be good for you to know whether or not you have to pay your taxes quarterly or whether you have to pay them, biannually or annually. That's more information that you're going to want to need to understand for revenue from a taxing perspective. So make sure you spend some time on your state's Department of Revenue website. Make sure you spend some time on your county's website on understanding how much you need to collect, and be sure that you're actually collecting it, okay? Because if you're not, you're going to be punished. I don't have that much more information on that, but if this topic has got you worried, or you're like, oh my God, this is too overwhelming for me, good, okay? Because these are some serious topics that you got to consider. And if you're not spending time thinking about them, you're going to probably end up paying a penalty. And I don't want you to do that. So take the time that you're not going to spend in creating your business name and focus it in here. Focus in on whether or not you want to be an LLC or a business entity other than an LLC, or you want to be a sole proprietor, okay? Because those are two dynamics that have both pros and cons. And no one can tell you which one is right for you, okay? You're going to have to research it, or you're going to have your accountant tell you what they would recommend. And if you trust your accountant, they'll help you make that decision, okay? So really, guys, think this through, because there's a lot of detail here that I never considered before starting my business that you have to consider, because there's a lot of information, okay? So that's it. That's it for this topic, whether or not you want to start an LLC or a sole proprietor. I hope this was helpful. If you have any additional questions, we can do a live stream on this. But that's topic number 3. And let me know if you have any additional questions. I'll talk to you later.